On February 24, 2023, at approximately 7:40 a.m., a 911 call comes in from a home in Herndon, Virginia. The dispatcher hears only muffled moans before the line cuts off. 15 minutes later, another call. A man claims he shot an intruder attacking his wife. When officers arrive, they find a horrific scene. A woman stabbed multiple times and a man dead from 2 gunshots. What begins as a case of home invasion suddenly turns into a web of deceit, manipulation, and murder. Hi, I'm Mark, and welcome to True Crime Stories. Today, we're looking at the case of Juliana Peres Magalhaes and the Banfield family. A case of betrayal, manipulation, and murder, where investigators uncovered forensic evidence, digital footprints, and personal connections that raised more questions than answers. Why would a husband conspire with the family nanny to kill his own wife, the mother of his daughter? Who was the intruder, and what did he do to deserve to die? The deeper they dug into the lives of those involved, the more complicated the story became. Let's take a look. Juliana Peres Magalhaes was born in Brazil and raised by her mother, who worked as a house cleaner. At age 21, she moved to Virginia as part of a cultural exchange program. This program allowed her to work as an au pair, providing childcare and cultural exchange with an American family. In late 2021, Juliana began her employment with Brendan and Christine Banfield as a live-in nanny. Her responsibilities included caring for the couple's young daughter and assisting with household duties. As she settled into her role, Brendan started taking interest in her, and over time their relationship would go on to extend beyond professional boundaries. This development would later play a crucial role in the events that unfolded. Brendan Banfield was born in February 1985 and has worked as an IRS agent since 2009. His role involved significant responsibilities, including handling of sensitive financial investigations. Christine Banfield, born in September 1985, was employed as a pediatric ICU nurse, a position that required extensive medical knowledge and emotional resilience. The couple had one daughter, born in 2018, who was the focus on their family life. In 2019, Brendan and Christine moved from Long Island, New York, to Herndon, Virginia. They purchased a 5-bedroom home for $799,000, which provided ample space for their growing family. The Banfields' decision to relocate and invest in a larger home reflected their commitment to establishing a stable environment for their daughter. On February 24, 2023, at 7:47 a.m., the first 911 call was placed from the Banfield residence in Herndon, Virginia. The call was made by Juliana, but communication was unclear. The dispatcher could only hear moaning on the line before the call abruptly ended. Just 15 minutes later, at 8:02 a.m., a second call was made. This time, Juliana requested assistance, and Brendan Banfield came onto the line, claiming he had shot an intruder who attacked his wife. When the police arrived at the scene, they discovered Christine Banfield, age 37, in the master bedroom. She had sustained multiple stab wounds to her upper body. Not far from her, Joseph Ryan, age 38, was found dead from gunshot wounds, one to the head and one to the chest. Christine was transported to a hospital in the hope that her life could be saved. However, shortly after arriving at the hospital, she was pronounced dead. Joseph Ryan was already pronounced dead at the scene. Following the tragic events of February 24, 2023, investigators began to scrutinize Juliana's account of the morning. Juliana claimed that she had left the Banfield residence shortly after Brandon departed for work, intending to take the couple's daughter of 4 years to the National Zoo. However, she stated that she returned home after realizing she had forgotten the packed lunches in the refrigerator. This narrative raised suspicions among detectives due to its timing and the circumstances surrounding her return. As Juliana approached the house, she observed an unfamiliar vehicle parked in the driveway and saw a man entering the home carrying a bag. This observation was pivotal. It indicated that someone unexpected was inside the residence at the time. Juliana attempted to contact Christine Banfield but received no answer. She then called Brandon to inform him of her observations, prompting him to return home. Upon Brandon's arrival, he and Juliana entered the house together with their daughter. Juliana placed the child in the basement for safety before following Brandon upstairs. When they reached the master bedroom, they discovered Joseph Ryan leaning over Christina Banfield, holding a knife to her throat. This alarming scene led Brandon to draw his service weapon and shoot Joseph Ryan once in the head. After this initial shot, Brandon instructed Juliana to retrieve a Glock semi-automatic pistol from a gun safe in the bathroom. Juliana complied and fired a single shot at Joseph Ryan, claiming uncertainty about whether she hit him. However, forensic evidence later confirmed that her shot did strike him in the chest. The conflicting accounts provided by both Juliana and Brendan raised significant doubts among investigators. Their narratives contained inconsistencies regarding their actions and observations during critical moments leading up to the shooting. As the detectives got deeper into these discrepancies, they began to question the authenticity of their claims, setting the stage for further investigation into the events that morning. One important question that needed answering was who was the intruder Joseph Ryan, and what was his purpose for visiting the Banfield residence. So, investigators on the case started digging up information to find any links between the two parties. What they found out as a result of the investigation made the entire case more complex. Joseph Ryan was an active user of FetLife, an online BDSM community. He would often utilize this platform to connect with others who shared similar interests. Under the surname Taco Supreme 7000, he engaged in various discussions, sharing his experiences and preferences related to kink and alternative sexual lifestyles. His profile indicated a willingness to explore unconventional relationships, which was a significant aspect of his life. Investigators later uncovered that Ryan had been communicating with a user named Anastasia9, a profile that featured Christine Banfield's photo as the profile picture. This interaction would prove critical to understanding the events leading up to the tragic incident at the Banfield residence. The messages exchanged between Ryan and Anastasia9 suggested he was lured into a situation under false pretenses. Ryan believed he was meeting Christine Banfield for a consensual encounter, but evidence indicated that this was not the case. The profile of Anastasia9 was maintained on Christine Banfield's computer, which raised immediate red flags for investigators. Investigators had to first make sure whether it was Christine operating this profile or was it someone impersonating her. Hence, they decided to match the content to the conversations between Ryan and Anastasia. To everyone's shock, they found out that the content of the messages exchanged between Ryan and his impersonated profile was inconsistent with Christine's typical writing style. This discrepancy suggested that someone had deliberately crafted these communications to mislead Ryan into believing he was engaged with Christine. The impersonation played a crucial role in the investigation, as it indicated a predetermined effort to lure Ryan into the Banfield home. The messages contained details that would have made them appear authentic to Ryan, further complicating the narrative surrounding his presence in the house on February 24, 2023. As detectives pieced together this information, it became clear that Joseph Ryan had been manipulated into a dangerous situation, believing he was meeting someone he trusted. This revelation not only highlighted the complexity of the case, but also raised questions about the motives behind the impersonation and how it fit into the larger context of events leading to the double homicide. As investigators got deeper into the case, they uncovered startling forensic evidence that significantly altered the trajectory of the investigation. One of the most flabbergasting findings was the manipulation of blood at the crime scene. Analysis revealed that blood from Christine Banfield's body had been deliberately smeared onto Joseph Ryan's body after his death. This act suggested an attempt to frame Ryan as the attacker, complicating the narrative surrounding the events of February 24, 2023. The implications of this evidence were profound. It indicated that someone had gone to great lengths to create a false narrative regarding the circumstances of Ryan's presence in the Banfield home. The forensic team examined blood spatter patterns and conducted DNA analysis, which confirmed the origin of the blood found on Ryan. First, the fake social media profile with Christine's picture, and then the blatant tampering of evidence and an attempt to frame Ryan by smearing Christina's blood on him. The investigators realized the story was much more complicated than what it was made to look like. All guns pointed toward Juliana and Brendan, both of whom claimed their actions were in self-defense and nothing else. After several months of investigation that could only complicate the case, the law enforcement service's needle fell on Juliana in October 2023. She was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and use of a firearm in connection with the death of Joseph Ryan. The decision to charge Juliana stemmed from a combination of evidence and her role in the events of February 24, 2023. Investigators noted that she was present at the scene during the critical moments leading up to Ryan's death and provided conflicting accounts of her actions that morning. Juliana's narrative, which included her claim of leaving to take the Banfield's daughter to the zoo and returning for forgotten lunches, raised suspicions among detectives. They found inconsistencies in her story that did not align with the physical evidence collected at the crime scene. Additionally, forensic analysis and the deliberate attempt to frame Ryan using Christine's blood all but sealed the deal for Juliana. The arrest unfolded on October 15, 2023, when law enforcement officials arrived at Juliana's residence. She was taken into custody without incident. During her arrest, officers explained the charges against her and informed her of her rights. Juliana maintained her innocence throughout this process, asserting that she acted out of fear for her life and believed she was defending herself and Christina Banfield from an intruder. Following her arrest, Juliana was transported to a local detention facility where she awaited processing. Her initial court appearance was scheduled shortly after her arrest. During this hearing, prosecutors presented evidence that included the same forensic findings and details of her communications on the day of the incident. As legal proceedings began, prosecutors argued that Juliana's actions demonstrated a reckless disregard for human life. They contended that she had played an active role in escalating a situation that ultimately resulted in violence. The case against her continued to develop as investigators worked to gather additional evidence while preparing for trial. If you're wondering why Brendan was not arrested, here is an explanation. Law enforcement officials saw Brendan's shooting of Joseph Ryan as protective. As per Brendan's claims, he was threatened by Ryan, the intruder, and if he had not acted as fast as he did, Ryan would have killed his wife with the knife he had around her neck. However, Juliana's deliberate attempt to shoot Ryan after he had already been shot by Brendan was seen as a second-degree murder. Once Juliana was arrested, the focus shifted to Brendan Banfield. But there was a lack of evidence to build a case against him. But the investigators did not give up. What they found out next was shockingly devastating. In August 2022, Juliana Peres Magalhaes moved into the Banfield home as a live-in nanny. This arrangement marked the beginning of an affair between her and Brendan Banfield. The dynamic of their relationship evolved quickly, as both individuals found themselves drawn to each other amidst the responsibilities of family life. Fast forward to October 2023, when investigators began uncovering evidence of this affair during their ongoing inquiry into the events surrounding the deaths of Joseph Ryan and Christine Banfield. The discovery of the relationship raised significant suspicions regarding potential motives behind the murders, suggesting that personal interests may have influenced the actions taken that fateful day. During a search of Brendan's bedroom, law enforcement officials found several notable findings that further implicated him in the unfolding narrative. Among these discoveries were framed photos of Brendan and Juliana, including a personal connection that went beyond professional boundaries. Additionally, Juliana's lingerie was found in the room, serving as tangible evidence of their intimate relationship. The combination of these findings not only painted a picture of an illicit relationship, but also provided investigators with critical evidence to build a case against Brendan. The implications of this affair became increasingly significant as authorities pieced together the timeline and circumstances surrounding the murders. The relationship between Juliana and Brendan was no longer just a personal matter. It had transformed into a central element of the investigation, influencing how detectives approached their inquiries and shaping the narrative surrounding both individuals' actions on the 24th of February 2023. In mid-February 2023, just weeks before the tragic events of February 24, Brendan Banfield made a significant decision to purchase a Glock pistol from a shooting range. This transaction raised immediate red flags for investigators, especially given the timing and the subsequent homicides that unfolded shortly thereafter. The purchase of a firearm just before such a violent incident suggested potential premeditation, leading authorities to scrutinize Brendan's actions more closely. Additionally, it was revealed that both Brendan and Juliana had traded in their phones for new models shortly before the incident. This change in communication devices sparked further suspicion among investigators. The timing of these trades, occurring just days before the murders, indicated a possible attempt to eliminate evidence or communication records that could link them to premeditated actions leading up to the incident. Investigators began to question whether these actions were part of a larger plan involving both Juliana and Brendan, as they sought to establish a cleaner timeline of events leading up to the confrontation with Joseph Ryan. Even after finding substantial evidence against Brendan Banfield, the law enforcement authorities needed more. Hence, following Juliana's arrest, law enforcement officials implemented a strategy to monitor her communications while she was incarcerated. This included tapping phone calls between Juliana and Brendan, a common investigation technique used in high-profile cases where the relationship between suspects could yield crucial evidence. The decision to tap these calls was driven by the need to gather information that could clarify the dynamics of their relationship and any potential premeditated actions related to the murders of Christine Banfield and Joseph Ryan. In a recorded call from jail, Deputy Commonwealth's attorney Eric Klingon revealed during a bond hearing that Juliana expressed concern about their relationship. She told Brendan, "I hope you are not just staying with me because you are afraid of me turning against you." This statement indicated her awareness of the precarious situation they were both in, and suggested that she was contemplating the implications of their actions on that fateful day. Brendan's response during this phone call was equally telling. He allegedly instructed her to keep her mouth shut on the recorded phone line. This directive all but put the last nail in Brendan's coffin. He was clearly attempting to control the narrative and prevent Juliana from divulging information that could implicate him in the crimes. Finally, the time came in September 2024 when Brendan Banfield was arrested by law enforcement authorities, following an extensive 11-month-long investigation into the events surrounding the deaths of Joseph Ryan and Christine Banfield. The arrest took place after detectives gathered substantial evidence linking Brendan to the crimes, including forensic findings, inconsistencies in his statements, and more. Law enforcement apprehended Brendan at his residence without incident. He would face serious legal repercussions following his arrest in September 2024. The primary charges brought against him were aggravated murder and the use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. The charge of aggravated murder stemmed from the circumstances surrounding the death of Joseph Ryan, who was shot in the Banfield home on February 24, 2023. Prosecutors argued that Brendan's actions demonstrated a reckless disregard for human life and indicated premeditation, as he allegedly orchestrated the events that led to the confrontation with Ryan. Additionally, Brendan was charged with using a firearm in the commission of a felony, specifically related to the use of his service weapon during the incident. This charge highlighted the severity of the crime, as it involved not only the unlawful taking of another person's life, but also the use of a firearm, which escalated the nature of the offense. When it came to the prosecution's case against Brendan, they had covered every little bit of the loopholes. After all, they had spent 11 months preparing a case against him. They presented some key inconsistencies in his account of the 24th of February 2023. The first thing they brought up was Brendan's time and actions on that day. He left his house around 7:10 a.m., but did not proceed to work as scheduled. Instead, he parked at a McDonald's restaurant and remained in his vehicle, seemingly waiting for a call from Juliana. This suggested that he may have been anticipating the unfolding events rather than heading to his job. Then there was the peculiar question of 2 911 calls. Both were placed approximately 15 minutes apart. During the first call, the dispatcher heard nothing but moaning, but never did Juliana mention she was hurt during the entire confrontation or in immediate danger. So why was the first call blank? Only after 15 minutes of the first call did Juliana ask for help from the authorities. If the situation was this dire as they presented it, why was it not reported immediately? Maybe because they had not yet finished the job of putting both victims away. Another key mistake made by Brendan, which the prosecution picked up on, was the retrieving of a second weapon. After shooting Joseph Ryan and blinding him, according to Juliana, Brendan asked her to retrieve a Glock semi-automatic pistol from a gun safe in the bathroom. This request was puzzling. If Joseph posed an immediate threat after being shot in the head, why would Brendan need Juliana to shoot him again? This inconsistency suggested a lack of urgency in their supposed self-defense scenario. Why do you think Brendan asked Juliana to shoot Ryan with a second gun? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Hence, it was the prosecution who firmly contended that Brendan Banfield was not merely a bystander in the tragic events of February 24, 2023, but rather an active participant in a calculated plan that ultimately led to the death of Joseph Ryan. Investigators uncovered evidence suggesting that Brendan was the one who orchestrated the impersonation of Christine on the fetish website, FetLife. This profile, created under the name Anastasia 9, was first used by Brendan himself, and then he instructed Juliana to use it in order to lure Joseph Ryan to the Banfield home under false pretenses. The prosecution argued that this act demonstrated Brendan's willingness to engage in deceitful tactics to achieve his goals. There was also a clear motive and evidence linking him directly to his wife's murder. Testimonies indicated that he had expressed a desire to be rid of her shortly after beginning his affair with Juliana. This desire for freedom from marriage was framed as a driving force behind his actions on that fateful day. Once the deed was done, he would make a failed attempt at tampering with the evidence by smearing Christina's blood on Ryan in order to frame him, when he was the one to have orchestrated the entire plan. In April 2024, a new significant development occurred in the case when the arrest suspect Juliana entered a plea agreement. Following her arrest, Juliana faced charges of second-degree murder and use of a firearm in connection with Joseph Ryan's death. As the investigation progressed, the evidence against her mounted, prompting discussions about a potential plea deal. The details of the plea agreement included a change of charges against her. Juliana pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter, a lesser charge than the original second-degree murder charge she faced. This decision was part of a negotiated plea agreement with prosecutors. The plea deal was negotiated between Juliana's defense attorney and the prosecution. This process involved discussions about the evidence against her, potential sentencing outcomes, and any cooperation she might provide regarding Brendan Banfield or other aspects of the case. By pleading to a lesser charge, Juliana aimed to reduce her potential sentence compared to what she might have faced if convicted of second-degree murder. This strategic move was intended to mitigate her legal consequences. The turning point in the plea agreement came when Juliana agreed to cooperate with law enforcement, providing information about Brendan and other relevant details related to the case, especially what transpired on the day of the murders. This cooperation was beneficial for both parties, offering Juliana a more favorable outcome while assisting prosecutors in building their case against Brendan. October 29, 2024 was the day when months and months of negotiations between the two parties came to an end, and Juliana agreed to cooperate with the authorities. As for her new sentence details, she could face 10 years, but may be released with credit for time served. Do you think it was the right decision for her to take up the plea agreement, or should she have fought the case? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. As the legal proceedings continue, significant upcoming trials are on the horizon for both Juliana Peres Magalhaes and Brendan Banfield. Juliana's sentencing is set for March 21, 2025, where she faces up to 10 years in prison, potentially with time served considered. Meanwhile, Brendan's trial is scheduled for February 3, 2025, as he confronts serious charges of aggravated murder and the use of a firearm in the commission of a felony, which could result in life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The complexities of the case remain under scrutiny, as ongoing investigations may uncover further details about the events leading up to the tragic deaths of Joseph Ryan and Christine Banfield. Both defendants' legal statuses are critical as they navigate their respective charges and prepare for what lies ahead in the courtroom. The outcomes of these trials will be pivotal in determining justice for all parties involved.